Former President Trump had room at his table at Mar-a-Lago for not one, but two of the most prominent anti-Semitic figures in the country this week. The first, Ye, the rapper formerly known as Kanye West, who spent the last several months spreading vile anti-Semitic tropes on social media and in interviews. And the second is this man, Nick Fuentes, a 24-year-old founder of the group America First Political Action Committee. He has emerged recently as one of the most prominent and outspoken white supremacists. He attended both the January 6th and Charlottesville rallies, and he is an unabashed Holocaust denier. Trump spent the holiday weekend, though, on social media trying to explain away the gathering, claiming to not know Fuentes and minimizing West's anti-Semitism. But according to CNN, a source said that Trump appreciated Fuentes' knowledge of his base and found him, quote, very interesting. And at one point, the source said, Trump declared that he liked Fuentes. West had his own version of events.
I think the thing that Trump was most perturbed about, me asking him to be my vice president, I think that was like lower on the list of things that caught him off guard. It was the fact that I walked in with intelligence. So Trump is really impressed with Nick Fuentes. And Nick Fuentes, unlike so many of the lawyers and so many people that he was left with on his 2020 campaign, he's actually a loyalist. When he didn't know what the lawyers is, you'll still have your lawyer list.
It is only just the latest example of Trump forging ties with individuals who have racist or extremist views, and his lack of willingness to condemn this stuff over and over again. But, Mario, today I think what is striking is the deafening silence among Republicans about this. Yet again, here we are, and Trump is just opening the doors to these vile characters, and Republicans, the elected ones, aren't saying anything.
No, we've seen this movie before, right? They try to bury their heads in the sand. When Trump was back on Twitter actively years ago, and we would approach him in the halls of Congress approach the lawmakers in the halls of Congress asking if they saw the tweet. They didn't see the tweet that everybody else saw. They didn't want to hear it. They want to just ignore this right now. But the problem for Trump, the reboot's never as good as the original, right? He's trying to catch fire in a bottle with this 2016 run. It's just, I was down in Mar-a-Lago for the rollout of his announcement. It just didn't have the same pizzazz that you figure that he was shooting for. And then he's also, the donors are fleeing him left and right. This is sure not to bring him back also as well. So this is a terrible moment for the former president's rollout.
His former U.S. ambassador to Israel, David Friedman, tweeted this: "To my friend Donald Trump, you are better than this. Even a social visit from an anti-Semite like Kanye West and human scum like Nick Fuentes is unacceptable. I urge you to throw these bums out, disavow them, and relegate them to the dustbin of history where they belong." That is a pretty strong statement. But the question is, given all that Trump has said and done, is he really better than what we are seeing here?
Look, when somebody shows you who they are, you should believe them. And Trump has shown us time and time again where he stands on these kinds of things, taking days to disavow David Duke, the former KKK Klansman who expressed his support for Trump. And you have to remember with Trump, his fundamental rule, the way that he operates, if somebody likes me, yes, I like them. And that's it.
It doesn't matter
who they are. It doesn't matter if they're anti-Semitic. It doesn't matter if they're racist. That is the bar for Trump every single time. And you also know, when you look at these denials from Trump, when there is a blatant lie in them, you know that the whole thing is BS. Because Trump here says that Kanye West unexpectedly showed up with 3 of his friends, Nick Fuentes, but one of the friends was Karen Giorno, who ran Trump's Florida campaign in 2016, who I know very well, who Trump knew very well on site. So, it's just, and then there's the issue of Trump himself, of course, has also spewed anti-Semitism in the past, including very recently when he suggested that American Jews are essentially not grateful enough towards him because of his support for Israel, going on that anti-Semitic trope of dual loyalty of American Jews.
I just want to put people to understand here this Nick Fuentes situation. This is someone who, has some degree of fame in the very dark right-wing corners on the internet, but to understand the vileness of it all, he He attended the Charlottesville rally, said a tidal wave of white identity is coming. He says the U.S. has a white demographic core that's central to its identity. He says he is just like Hitler and that the real Holocaust was Jesus Christ being crucified. Notably, though, Marjorie Taylor Greene, who we were just discussing, Congressman Paul Gosar, spoke at his white supremacist conference in the past. And both of those people are members of the Republican Party in good standing.
Power broker.
Yeah.
Now in the House Republican Conference, Nick Fuentes is very much a known quantity. Yes, he inhabits the darker corners of the internet, but he also inhabits the House floor now. So because of his these individuals that have appeared at his conference, so. There has been this permission structure created by the Republican Party to not cast individuals like Nick Fuentes, back to the dark corners.
And doesn't this tell us so much about what a Trump term would look like, too? Like no vetting of people, just like anti-Semites, Holocaust deniers walking through the door. I mean, it tells us everything.
But exactly, but because of the silence that Abby mentioned at the beginning of this segment, that's why this continues, because there is no one in the Republican Party who, with any sort of power, that's willing to stand up and rebuke him. Now, the question is, should other people get into the presidential race if this is something that's called out by some of the potential challengers of the former president?
I mean, this is all tracking with exactly the Trump that we know, and it all tracks with Marjorie Taylor Greene. This is all the same stuff we've been seeing for years. This is like, to me, there's nothing surprising about any of this. The only thing that stood out to me about this meeting with President Trump and Kanye and Nick Fuentes and then the Marjorie Taylor Greene connection, the thing that really stood out to me was the absurdity of it all, because I only wish I could have watched Kanye West turn to Trump and say, I'm running for president. Would you like to be my vice president? And just watch that one blow up, because that is not the thing that Trump wants to hear at all.
If you're a Republican right now, right, they are watching this slow-moving train moving forward. And Trump, he's announced that he's running again in 2024. The base of the party seems to be, to some extent, right there with him. Just look at this poll, this Quinnipiac poll, about asking whether Trump running for president is a bad thing. Democrats say it's a bad thing, 88%. Independents, 58%, say it's a bad thing. Republicans, 27%, so a majority of Republicans are fine with it, but independents are not there. And if you are a Republican and you want to win, that should be a red flag.
And that's the issue, right? I mean, we're fresh off of a midterm election where Trumpism was repudiated by many of the voters, right? Many of his election deniers, they lost. Many of his candidates that he endorsed, they lost as well. So independent voters are showing no appetite for a Trump 2.0 run again, even as parts of the base agitate and stay behind him. And so Republicans have to figure out how they're going to forcefully cut the cord with former President Donald Trump here if they want to win.
Yeah, I mean, and it strikes me as a lot of chatter quietly about whether or not other people are going to run, but it's going to come down to making some tough decisions, that it can't be a field of 20 people like it was the last time.
Well, I will say that whenever we've asked on the Hill, we've gone up to Republican senators and said, oh, what do you think of Trump announcing he's running for president right now? Good idea? And either they don't want to talk about it, or if they do talk about it, they'll say, well, it's not my decision, it's his decision. But I also think that there's this guy, Ron DeSantis. Have you heard of Ron DeSantis? Ron DeSantis. There's a guy named Ron DeSantis in Florida who maybe he might run. And you can see they're like desperately trying to weave through the Trump mess and somehow end up at Ron DeSantis. They really, in some way, want to get to him already, even though here we are in November of 2022, and Ron DeSantis has not announced because it's so early, but they're like desperately trying to get there.
But what they're also trying to do is they're trying to avoid doing what they have to do, which is dismantling the lie of Trump's appeal to his base, right? Dismantling the lies that he's told about his business life, in politics, and dismantling this kind of aura and this hold that he has over that base.
Until they're willing to push back on the crazy, I don't see how you can make an argument against what Trump is running on.